If something's beautiful, that doesn't mean that it's safe. This rule works out well in the animal world, and especially concerning insects. Caterpillars that may seem inoffensive can be more poisonous than snakes. The fluffy insects can be deceptive, whereas the beetles are compared with the real weapon. In this edition, I'll show you the most dangerous and deceptive insects in the world you better not mess with. Look at this thing. It's hard to even describe what it is. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't go within a mile of such a creepy monster. It's written all over its face. It can do harm. But not everything in the animal world is so clear-cut. There are caterpillars, for example. They look very unusual, as if some branch came to life and began to crawl. Hardly anyone would take it in his arms, but you never know, people are different. In any case, this caterpillar attracts attention. If you don't take it in your arms, then at least you'll wish to come closer and look at it. You can look, but it's better not to get too close because it's a Linomia. These arms may seem soft and hairless, but it's in them that the danger of this insect lies. The arms of the Linomia are very sharp and contain poison. Scientists believe that's the only caterpillar in the world that can finish off humans with its venom. Actually, this isn't true. There are other deadly caterpillars, and you'll see them today. What's certain, Linomia is the most toxic. Its arms easily pierce the skin, poison enters the body, and in worse cases, it can lead to kidney failure, internal bleeding, and death. Even in the best cases, it won't be sweet. At the very least, burns, bruises, and poisoning are guaranteed. It's surprising that such a creepy caterpillar eventually turns into a very cute butterfly, silk moth. In this guise, the insect is no longer a threat. Linomias are also interesting in that they can be described as very nervous and twitchy. At least this is the impression one gets because they react very sharply to sound. Linomias like to gather in trees, and if you make a noise near a tree, the caterpillars will begin to synchronously twitch, rise, and move. By the way, it's a pretty good trick. By making noise, you can check if these dangerous insects are near you. This is another beauty from the insect world. It's called in different ways: woolly slug, pus caterpillar, or pus moth. It's not so important. Much more important is its unusual appearance. Caterpillar is really woolly and beautiful. Its wool is not at all as deceptive as the arms of Linomia. They may seem soft, but in fact hard and sharp. The puss wool is soft. However, this doesn't mean that we should stroke it like a cat. The wool may be soft, but underneath you can find very sharp and dangerous thorns. At the same time, they aren't strong and break from a light touch. This is even worse because the thorns end up staying in the skin and can lodge quite deeply. That would be a different matter if everything ended with that, but pus is also poisonous. Yes, it's not as toxic as Linomia, but there's nothing pleasant about its venom. The victim suffers severe throbbing pain that spreads throughout the injured limb and the body as a whole for several minutes. Then there are symptoms such as nausea, broken bones, sweating, headaches, and respiratory problems. In particularly severe cases, it can lead to anaphylactic shock and fatal outcome. And even if everything works out fine, the very unpleasant symptoms last from 12 hours to several days. So the contact with this insect may be remembered forever. Saddleback caterpillar. Whoever came up with a name for this creature is a genius. This caterpillar really looks as if it has a saddle on top of it. Saddle's bright, and the caterpillar itself is colorful. It'll be hard for impressionable people to resist the temptation not to take it in their arms. Anyway, it's definitely not worth it. You can see why you can't ride this bug. It's all about those hairs. They look like needles and are quite stiff. But the most important thing, sharp and toxic. Contact with the hairs causes a rash. If you're less lucky, you'll add nausea to the symptoms. And in some cases, everything can end up with severe allergic reactions up to anaphylactic shock and bleeding. This usually happens when the first aid comes too late. In order not to aggravate the situation, it's better to immediately remove these sharp hairs and clean the affected area of the skin from them so that the poison doesn't spread further on the body. As you know, caterpillars eventually turn into butterflies, and the swaddle toxin is not an exception. As a rule, butterflies are not as creepy as caterpillars in every way. They both look much prettier, and there are far fewer dangerous creatures among them. But that doesn't mean they don't exist at all. Butterflies are also worth being careful with, especially in Africa, where the African giant swallowtail lives. This is the largest daytime butterfly in Africa. Its wingspan can reach 9.8 inches. At the same time, it's often called the most toxic butterfly butterfly on the planet. These butterflies eat the leaves of Strophanthus vines and get the poison from them. Scientists still don't understand how nature has saved the butterflies themselves and why they don't die on such a diet, but the fact remains, butterflies become toxic after the diet. Their bodies are filled with albane, a dangerous compound. The powerful force of the toxin is directed, of course, at the potential predators, birds and predatory insects. Sensing the approach of danger, the butterfly sprays a substance with a sharp, unpleasant odor in the air, scaring away ill-wishers. For humans, this substance can also be very dangerous. This is evidenced by the fact that some African tribes use albane to hunt hippos. If it's true, then you understand. Hippos die from this toxin, then a human being, even more. Spotted lanternfly. What's wrong with this insect? Maybe it's also very toxic. Or maybe it attacks people by biting them until they lose their pulse. Actually, no. However, it's still dangerous to us, but in a different way. The spotted lanternfly is some kind of incredible pest and destroyer. This particular insect is affecting crops right now in the bad sense of the word. Spotted lanternfly is characterized by an insane voracity. These insects are very numerous, taking over entire areas, occupying plants and eating hops, apples, grapes, nut trees, willows, maples, and so on. The insects suck the sap out of the plant and it becomes weak and dies. Among other things, lanternflies release a sticky liquid that attracts other pests and promotes mold growth, doing even more harm to the plant. The lanternfly situation is especially difficult in the United States right now. Invasions of these insects bring huge losses and damages in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and so far, it's almost impossible to do anything with these bugs. Sticky traps and many pesticides won't work on them. There's an option to get special wasps from China to eliminate the pests. Won't it turn them into a bigger nightmare? Speaking of wasps, why not take a look at one? Here it is. It's called a panda ant. And no, I'm not crazy or out of my mind. It's a wasp, not an ant, and absolutely, definitely not a micro panda. The whole point is that the wasp looks a bit like an ant in its body structure, and its coloring is the same as a black and white bear from China. And it is. These creatures belong to the velvet ant family. Although many people are afraid of wasps, ants scare much less people. As this wasp looks like an ant, there may be confusion. A person may try to get a better look at it. However, that's definitely not worth it. These South American wasps are considered some of the most dangerous wasps on the planet. If an ordinary wasp ever stung you, you remember how painful it was. In the case of the panda ant, it's even worse. Severe pain from stinging lasts 30 minutes, less pain about a day, and the affecting area keeps swelling a week more. Experienced entomologists say that only a few can compare with the panda ant in terms of pain sensations. In addition, it's believed that this insect can even finish off a cow. Panda ants are sometimes even called cow killers. However, this applies to all the velvet ants in general. Harvester ant. And now we have a real ant. The name fully corresponds to the essence. In general, there are different ants, but all of them, one way or another, are considered dangerous. Some simply spread on their feet a lot of bacteria and carry infections, whereas others have a very powerful poison. The harvester ant is the latter. Particularly dangerous in this regard, the harvester ant of the species Maricopa. According to scientists, the venom of this ant is 12 times stronger than that of the honeybee. The toxin consists of amino acids, proteins, and peptides. The ant attacks its victim ruthlessly and injects the venom as abundantly as it can. What's also interesting is when the insect stings its victim, it emits pheromones. These are picked up by the other ants in the colony, and fellow insects rush to support their fighter in the attack. So it's unlikely to get off with just one bite. Considering that it's much more painful than a bee sting, you feel uneasy. Harvester ants are even capable of killing humans, at least in theory. It takes 350 ants to sting a person. For animals, it's much worse. The same rat can be killed by only 12 ants. You can't get away from these insects, and it's not easy to fight them. What do? Why don't we just crush them? Well, we don't welcome this. It's better not to take anyone's life, but sometimes there are no other options. However, not all insects are worth crushing. Some may try to respond, even in the case with the bombardier beetle. The beetle's name speaks for itself. It's indeed a real bombardier and represents a living weapon. These beetles are able to shoot liquid at the enemy in a targeted manner. When threatened, the beetle secretes a poisonous liquid from its anus. It would be another matter if everything ended with it. What's more, this liquid is also heated up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and its volley is no nonsense. The insect shoots in bursts at a decent distance, and the speed of the volleys is about the same as a real gun. Scientists can catch the firing only with the help of slow-motion cameras. Even humans can suffer recover from such bombardment. There's nothing to say about insects and small animals. The bombardier is able to shoot and drive them away in no time. The only thing that makes you happy is that you can wait out the bombardment. Bombardiers make from 10 to 30 shots. They run out of toxic substances in the body, and then they need time to recover or reload. It's not just cute and unusual insects that can pose a threat to us and other creatures. Other creatures are capable of doing so as well, from poisonous mammals to amazing sea creatures to immobile pillars of fire. What am I talking about? You're about to find out. Poisonous mammals are very rare. Apparently, nature has decided that mammals do not need toxins in their body, but nature also has failures. So there are a few such world beaters in the world. For example, the Solenodon. This is a fairly rare creature that lives in Cuba and Haiti. Outwardly, they look like large rats with a very long nose. Although the animal looks funny, it's better to stay away from it. Its poisonous apparatus is compared to a snake. Not in terms of toxicity, though. It's all about how the apparatus is designed. The Solenodon uses the venom for its prey, attacking small rodents and insects. For humans, the poison's not lethal but can still cause a lot of troubles, so you'd better not tempt fate and not mess with this animal. However, it's not so easy to find it because these animals are considered endangered. And here's another interesting fact. Despite the fact that Solenodon is poisonous, it doesn't have resistance to its own poison. For this reason, the animals can die by accidentally biting itself on the tail. In addition, Solenodons often die in battles with each other, settling disputes. This is probably why these animals are on the verge of extinction. What do you know about sea corals? I'm sure that many people think that they're just something like plants or even rocks on the bottom, nothing more. But corals are actually living creatures. They're cnidarians, that is, they're distant relatives of jellyfish. Some corals are not dangerous, whereas others can cause terrible pain. They're called fire corals, but I'd call them pillars of fire in the water. They don't move much, and of course they won't attack a person like a shark, but it's best to stay away from them because these corals are very stinging. Fire corals cause a very strong burn, as if in contact with nettles, but 10 times more painful. Divers say that it's like touching red-hot metal. After the burn on the skin can be left a noticeable scar, which is no longer nothing to remove. The burn itself is not fatal. However, from the surprise and pain underwater, you can lose consciousness. So, in theory and roughly speaking, the fire coral is quite capable of killing a person. The most insidious sea creatures are not even corals but mollusks. Nature has made many of them very beautiful, so impressionable people may try to swim up close to them, study them, or even hold them in their hands. Personally, I would not recommend you to pick up anything from the sea at all, and especially if it's something bright and colorful. There's the blue sea dragon, for example. It's a small gastropod. It looks like something not from our planet, and it had better actually live somewhere not on Earth. This mollusk feeds on cnidarians, including some very poisonous ones. Their venom accumulates in its body, and later the mollusk can defend itself by using it. The blue sea dragon delivers a stinging blow to the offender, and the victim gets seriously injured and traumatized. As far as it's known, this is not fatal. That's not always the case. Some mollusks are truly deadly, and injuries alone are not enough. For example, such a mollusk is the flamboyant cuttlefish. If you see it in the water, approach the animal by no means. Calmly swim away and get to shore. This external beauty hides an insane danger in the form of a wild poison. A single dose is enough to send 26 adults to glory. It's the same story with the blue-ringed octopus, one of the most venomous creatures not only in the ocean but on the planet as a whole. Its venom and the venom of the cuttlefish converge in action. It paralyzes the entire musculature, and the victim can suffocate in a matter of minutes. At the same time, it may remain conscious until the very end, but not be able to show or hint that it was bitten. It's a very insidious creature. Although the octopus is very beautiful, you better not go near it. Now I'll tell you about other dangerous inhabitants of our planet, sea monsters that stroke the whole world. Freshwater big creature. Questions about the largest freshwater fish are never closed. Some are convinced that it's the giant catfish. Others believe that the title belongs to the Arapaima and no one else. Well, researchers from Cambodia made a new statement and said that the largest freshwater inhabitant was a miraculous 660-pound stingray. In addition to its impressive weight, the giant was also about 10 feet long. Such a large size in stingrays boggles my mind. I wonder how they managed to catch it in the first place. curious. What do you think? After all, because of their unusual shape, stingrays must constantly come off hooks. Besides, once it's off the hook, no one will ever see this cautious fish again. It'll burrow somewhere in the bottom among the mud and wait out the dangerous moment. And when it wants to, it can attack anyone it wants to. The stingray has ampullae of Lorenzini, which allow it to sense the electrical fields of living things, determine their size and metabolic rate. Stingrays usually use them to catch things like small fish and mollusks, but they can also pinpoint your location as precisely as if the stingray were looking at you with its own eyes. But what will it do even if it comes across some other prey? Well, it's simple. A thin sting will come out from under the silt and quickly and confidently send the opponent to kingdom come. The tail of the stingray is a whole 16 inches of pure muscles, which also have a harpoon at the end. The tail accelerates to such speeds that it can easily pierce chest or skull. And even if the freshwater big creature misses and doesn't hit the vital organs, the target will still die, but not so fast. The creature's harpoon is venomous after all. It's scary to imagine how strong and dangerous this 660-pound stingray was, which broke the record. As I said, that stingray was a record breaker among its kind, but it's still a long way from being the largest freshwater fish, at least as long as there's a giant arapaima swimming around the world. On average, the size of this fish is about 10 feet long, but there are individuals that reach 13 and even 15 feet in length. Can you imagine such a thing? This king of freshwater environment is so confident in itself and its strength that it hasn't even been into conflicts lately. The arapaima leads the most peaceful life possible. Having reached such a size, the adult individual will definitely not get into anyone's teeth, and therefore there's nothing to worry about. By the way, do you want to know an interesting fact? The arapaima is one of the few fish that has remained virtually unchanged over a long multi-million-year history. That means that even 135 million years ago, this freshwater giant looked exactly the same. However, don't think that looking the same means having the same abilities. For example, in the course of evolution, the arapaima has learned to breathe air from the surface. A special coating of the pharynx and air bladder helps it in this. Yes, this ability is not unique, it's found in other fish, but still. And since I mentioned other fish, it's worth saying that they should definitely be wary of the arapaima. Since it has an unrealistic size, at one point it completely went crazy. It began to devour absolutely everything in its path just to satisfy its hunger. Sometimes its diet can be supplemented even by guests from the land, for example, birds that take baths or drink water. But don't think that the arapaima is the height of insanity. It has also some good traits. For example, it's one of the few fish that practices adoption of fry. The noble giants take even other fish offspring under their fin, raising orphaned babies together with their own ones. Red piranha. I think there's no need to introduce the piranha to you. Everyone knows that it's a predator, which together with its congeners is able to devour absolutely any target in seconds, setting a new world record for speed eating. And in case anyone didn't know, in the world of piranhas, these predators are divided into species. Among the dangerous fish, there are the most dangerous. These are red piranhas, also known as common piranhas. Yes, no matter how paradoxical it may sound, but common ones are the most serious. They're the owners of the bad reputation of freshwater predators, dangerous to both animals and people. Basically, their danger lies in the presence of a large mouth with sharp teeth protruding forward. They're closed very tightly, because of which the fish do not bite the food but literally cut it off like a razor. Usually, the jaws of piranhas are compared to well-sharpened scissors. And it'd be fine if it was just some kind of another dangerous fish that has sharp teeth, high speed and stuff, but it has a well-coordinated team. Piranhas live in teams and hunt constantly. Being a single unit, these predatory fish do not bite into the target at the same time, but attack it one by one. Thus, they're able to nibble their prey down to the bones in just a few minutes. And here, it's important to know the truth. Although piranhas have a great potential to devour any creature, this is not their initial interest. All the fish's attention initially relates to carrion, as wolves can be called orderlies of the forest, so piranhas can fairly be given the title of the Amazon orderlies. They promptly purify the water from the dead bodies that have fallen into it so that they do not emit toxic substances. Electric eel. If other fish can be compared to anyone else, then the electric eel is, in every sense, a record-breaking and most unique inhabitant of freshwater. The fish is the only one of its kind and is often found in the Amazon River. The size of its body usually reaches 6.5 to 8 feet, and its weight's about 44 pounds. The electric eel feeds on fish, amphibians, and if it's lucky enough, it can get some birds or small mammals. Scientists have been studying this natural wonder for decades and have only recently begun to clarify clarify some details. By the way, did you know that the ability to generate electricity is not the only feature of this eel? It also knows how to breathe atmospheric air. This is possible due to the large amount of oral tissue of a special kind. It's permeated with blood vessels. To breathe, the electric eel needs to float to the surface every 15 minutes. It cannot take oxygen from the water because it lives in very muddy bodies of water where there's still very little oxygen. But of course, the main distinguishing feature of the electric eel is its electric organs. After all, it's with their help that this animal finds the target, determines where it hid from it in the murky water, then stuns it and sends it to Kingdom Come with a strong electric shock. By the way, to determine the location of the opponent, the electric eel also generates electrical charges, but they're very weak and in small radius around it. And that's not all it can do. In the arsenal of Zeus of the freshwater world, there's another series of low-voltage charges which it needs for communication. The electric eel is also capable of generating successive electrical charges, usually consisting of 2 to 3 high-voltage pulses lasting a few seconds. This method is used by the electric eel when hunting for hidden and lurking prey. As soon as 2 to 3 high-voltage charges are generated, the muscles of the lurking prey begin to contract, and the eel can easily locate a potential meal. The eel's final ability is something of a mini Armageddon. With its help, it releases up to 400 pulses per second, paralyzing everything in its path at a distance of up to 10 feet. The next freshwater creature I'm going to tell you about is called Candiru, or a toothpick fish. This is a fish that loves to swim inside organisms and stay inside. It once again proves that you should be afraid not only of the largest inhabitants of rivers and oceans, but also the smallest ones. The parasite is able to get inside the body through various openings and fix itself inside with small spines. What will it do inside the body? The same thing it always does, drinking blood. As you understand, people of all ages, as well as the fish, are at risk of catching this parasite. Goliath tigerfish. Candiru is definitely a dangerous fish, but it'll be just a snake out for our next guest. The Goliath tigerfish, or as it's also called, the giant tigerfish, is a real water dog which is characterized by a large size, very aggressive temperament, as well as giant teeth, of which there are more than 30 in its mouth. This monster is recognized in the world of fishermen as something like the most dangerous and difficult prey. When it's hooked, inexperienced fishermen fall overboard because of the temperament of this creature. Only the most experienced and strongest ones can catch a Goliath tigerfish. In addition, the Goliath tigerfish can breathe ordinary air, and it's also able to swim against the current. It does this for a reason. The point is that this way the Goliath tigerfish quickly finds weaker fish swimming with the stream and eats them. Nightmare. This is the name I would give to the next fish, which is a river parasite. The name of this nasty creature is lamprey, and it's a jawless, round-mouthed creature that sticks to anyone who gets in its way. Instead of the standard mouth, the lamprey has a funnel densely studded with sharp teeth. With its help, as soon as it finds a potential prey, the fish bites into soft tissues, and hour after hour, like the most insatiable vampire, sucks out all the juices. Seems to me that this is the most disgusting creature that can be found in freshwater rivers. One look at this mouth is enough to never let it near you. So, the Ganges. To begin with, although it is the main river in India, and besides its sacred river, it's dangerous even without animals, at least because the Ganges is highly polluted. Water from this river is extremely dangerous to use, but many locals who live in poverty simply have no way out. They do their laundry, wash their clothes here, and some even drink from this river. It's not hard to guess that dysentery is almost the main disease among the locals. But even if the water in the Ganges was crystal clear, the river would continue to be dangerous. In the river and on its banks, you can see many formidable animals from which you should stay away. Crocodiles, for example. Some species, like gharials, are not very dangerous, but some are, those very toothy monsters that won't be kind with their prey. It's also not uncommon to come across tigers or leopards on local shores. And don't forget, this is India, the habitat of many dangerous snakes. Therefore, it's a common thing to stumble upon some venomous creeping creature in or near the Ganges River. The Amazon is the largest river on the entire planet in terms of length, basin area, and volume of water. The Amazon flows through almost all of South America and is characterized by an incredible diversity of flora and fauna. As for the latter, local animals are not always friendly to people or other animals. Yes, here you can find harmless capybaras, modest tapirs, or cute monkeys, but at the same time the Amazon is full of dangerous creatures. For example, anacondas, the most massive and strongest snakes in the world, live here. Anacondas can be found both on the banks of the Amazon and underwater. There, the snakes search for their prey, attack it, and squeeze it with their devilish rings, from which sometimes even an alligator can't get out. Speaking of which, you can find one in the Amazon too. It's home to caimans, South American alligators that grow up to almost 16 feet in length. Like other alligators, caimans are a threat to humans and can kill them in a fight without much difficulty, but this doesn't happen very often. These alligators themselves should not relax because they're hunted not only by anacondas but also by jaguars. Perhaps it's these South American cats that are the main predators of the Amazon region. In the diet of these big cats, there are almost 100 species of different animals. That is, jaguars eat literally everyone in the area. For them, there's no difficulty in killing even an anaconda or a caiman. Lightning speed, monstrous bite with sharp teeth, agility, and sneaking skills make the jaguar a truly terrifying Amazon force. There are very few known cases of jaguars attacking humans, but still you shouldn't make this big cat angry. It's capable of a lot of things. Finally, it's in the Amazon River that you can find all sorts of dangerous fish, from tiny parasites and giant arapaima to the notorious piranhas. These toothy fish do not just bite their prey, but literally cut off their meat due to the special structure of their teeth and jaws. A school of piranhas can deal even with a large animal and severely harm a person. But this happens rarely, only when piranhas confuse people with their prey in murky water. There's even no need to talk about lethal outcome. Piranhas have never killed people despite all the myths and stories. Congo River. While the Amazon is the largest river on Earth in terms of volume, length, and basin area, the Congo is the deepest river in the world. In some places, it's 722 feet deep. The Congo River is also distinguished by many rapids and rifts. The water in the river is very choppy, so boating on the Congo River is dangerous, even on a good boat. But that's not all. Because the Congo River is full of all kinds of dangerous creatures, after all, this is Africa. That's why a tourist may come across an angry crocodile near the river or right in it. Some crocodile will ignore them, but some will definitely try to attack. As well as hippos, which are also abundant here. It's not uncommon for hippos to attack right from the river, coming out of the water and attacking a human in a boat. Hippos can also be found on the banks. There are also lots of other dangerous herbivores there. For example, buffaloes or African forest elephants. The Congo River is also dangerous for its fish, the main of which is the Goliath tigerfish. These toothy monsters can weigh up to 110 pounds and grow up to 4.2 feet and more in length. As part of a group of their congeners, they're unrivaled and can attack anyone from a human to a crocodile. Finally, in the Congo River, you can stumble upon water snakes. And on the banks of the river, a gorilla can wait for a person. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't go into that river. That's all, guys. Which river would you never go into? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.